Well, now we're going to do a wrap up of our great scholarship program. I couldn't tell you how proud I am of the people that have made this possible for us. And the person that's going to tell you all about it is the chairman of the committee that has made this all possible for us, Bob Davidson. And let me mention before Bob starts, his committee members are Phil Edholm, who is secretary, Tom Farrell, who is our treasurer. Bob is the vice president, I'm the president, and Jeff Jordan is the attorney for us. So that's how we started. Then the committee expanded to include Martin Breckbilt, MMR, David Schultz, and Jamie Bothwell. So that's our committee. And that committee, excluding me, but those people really deserve all your credit in the world for getting our scholarship to the point that it is today. This for sure is not Jim Kello's scholarship. That has nothing to do with it. This is a joint effort of a bunch of volunteers that came together, that saw a need to help the young model railroaders of today become the old model railroaders with a great education tomorrow. And Bob, thank you so much for leading the way for us.
Well, thank you, Jim. You're a good act to follow, and you've inspired us all. So let me share my desktop here, and we're going to do. So as Jim said, we're going to do kind of just a brief year in review, and soon in the future we'll be doing a forward-looking presentation for you to let you know what's coming up in 2024. Hopefully we'll be doing that next Wednesday. So as Jim said, I'm going to go back a little more than a year. November of 2022, I was kind of brought into discussions regarding organizing a scholarship. And at first we established a committee with the folks that Jim mentioned, as well as Kevin McCumber, who was on the committee at that time. And that was back in November of 2022. By that December, Phil had worked on and drawn up the criteria for the scholarship, and we had all discussed and approved that. And Phil took the time and developed an application for it, both online and written, that folks could submit. And at around that same time, we decided to pursue getting our 501c3 nonprofit designation, which we thought would be real helpful in terms of just organizing the scholarship as an entity, as well as encourage folks to donate to it. Jeff Jordan's firm, Aaron Fox Schiff, agreed to handle all of the work on this pro bono. So that was a huge shot in the arm to the work that we were trying to do. And Jeff, we can't thank you and your firm enough for all the time that you guys put into helping us out. The draft articles of incorporation and bylaws were drawn up. We decided that the new corporation would be called New Tracks Mentoring, Inc. And it was decided that we would award a $1,000 scholarship for the 23-24 academic year, the year we're in now. And that scholarship was funded by donations to New Tracks Modeling. This is before we actually had the nonprofit set up. So thanks to all those. I know we recognized you last year, and you have our deepest appreciation for getting this whole thing started. In January of 23, we had the first use. We had developed some scholarship banners, and the first banner went out to the Amherst Train Show. And it was such a success that we had banners last year at about 25 shows from coast to coast. California to New York, down south into Georgia, up north into Minnesota. We really worked hard to get the name out and to let people know about this scholarship program. as Jim had said, with the exception of Walters, right now we're the kind of the only national scholarship for young model railroaders that's out there. There are some groups that sponsor their own scholarships, but we look from coast to coast and both east, west, and north and south to get our next generation of modelers involved. In January, New Tracks Mentoring was established as a Florida corporation. We were able to get that paperwork through, and as you'll see here shortly, in record time. In February, we filed for our 501c3, and we did that on February 7th. I put the exact date in there because those of you who may be in organizations that have tried to get a 501c3 nonprofit, well, you know that it can be, you could bang your head against the wall for a long time, but not in our case. If, again, thanks to Jeff, we received our designation a week later from the IRS. February 14th, we were approved as a 501c3. That's absolutely unheard of. So we kind of knew that we were doing some good work then, and somebody was looking down on us. In March of 23, we were approved as a Florida charitable organization. We filed with the Florida Secretary of State. And if you look at our all of our fundraising materials, they note the fact that we are a Florida corporation that's been recognized, and we'll be filing with them reports so that you'll be able to go up and see the work that we've been doing. By April of 23, we had received 5 scholarship applications already online. Again, from across the country. So we really didn't know what to expect that first year. We were quite pleased with getting 5 in the first few months. In May of 23, we adopted the Zeffy platform to handle our online donations. And we keep stressing that Zeffy does not charge any fees to the New Tracks Modeling Mentoring Scholarship. They are themselves a nonprofit that are supported by corporations, and they help small nonprofits such as us have a portal to raise money without paying the 3.5 or sometimes higher credit card fees and transfer fees and things like that. So, as we always say, 100% of any donation you make actually goes to the scholarship fund. It does not go to a handling company. By June, we had received a total of 7 scholarship applications. Again, I wouldn't say far exceeding our expectation, but we were very pleased with what had come in. When the applications closed on July 1st, the committee met and we decided on the scholarship recipient, who you all know is Ethan Bernstein, who is currently a junior at Johns Hopkins University, an incredibly talented modeler and very committed not just to his modeling, but to the hobby itself. There is a program up on the YouTube channel you can watch, and Ethan's just a really nice young man and very involved with the NMRA and just a good soul. And we were so proud to have him be our inaugural recipient. September, we were busy. We set a goal of awarding at least 4,000 scholarships for 2024-25 academic year. And also in September, on the 20th, we announced that an anonymous donor would match up to $1,000 in contributions, small contributions. And as you'll hear shortly, and as I talked about last week, it's no secret, we passed that challenge with flying colors. And we cannot thank that anonymous donor enough. Just through this one program, we will be able to award a scholarship this coming year. Also, as Jim mentioned, in September, Martin, Jamie, and David joined the committee, and we're currently working them into the operations, and they'll be busy in the coming year. In December, just this month, Tom Farrell joined our committee as the corporate treasurer. The challenge grant goal was reached, as we said, so there's our $2,000, first $2,000 scholarship. And thanks to your generous donations, I will announce tonight, we'll be awarding at least $4,000 in scholarships. And as you'll hear shortly, we are confident that we'll be able to add an additional $2,000 scholarship for a total of $6,000 in scholarships in what really is the first year of the nonprofit operation, which is just phenomenal, just phenomenal. So a big shout out to our donors, and this is as of today. We started a brass level corporate donation program. We have 3 levels actually, but we were lucky enough to get 4 companies to join us at a $250 level, and these are all up on the website. Brennan's, Model Railroading, New Creations, Victorian Railroad Buildings, the Great Scale Model Train Show down at Timonium, and the Model Railroad Resource. Dan and Amy, thank you all so much. And then the individual donors, and these are donors who have, given anywhere from $7, $5 up to hundreds of dollars. And this couldn't have happened without these donors. So thank you all, really, from the bottom of our hearts. This is definitely a noble quest that we're on here. So one of the things that we ask is you'll continue to support the scholarship fund, and your support is going to help fund scholarships for the coming years. And again, next week we'll be laying out some plans for the next year of scholarship awards, 25-26, and we'll be reporting on that. But in the meantime, what's next? Well, we need your help. We need your help to solicit applications. We've raised the money. Now we need to have the kids who are going to be the recipients make application for those scholarships. So please go to your clubs. If you know a neighbor who's a modeler or has a kid, anybody that you know who might be able to help us out, please direct them to the website, newtracksmodeling.com/scholarship. The application will be going live next week on the 1st, and we would love to be inundated with applications. That would be our dream. So please help spread the word. It will mean a lot to these kids. It means a lot to us, and most importantly, it means a lot to our hobby. So what I'm going to do now is stop sharing and come back to, I'd like to throw it back to Jim Kello, who's going to introduce a special guest we have tonight and make a really special announcement. So Jim, back to you.
Well, Bob, I can't thank you and the committee enough for all the hard work and everything else that you all have put in past year to get us to the point that we are today. It wasn't long ago, and it's not in the slides that you prepared, but a while back, Phil Edholm and I were talking, and I said, Phil, we need to find a way to fund NewTracks, because up to this point, I had been writing all of the checks for it. And I thought, we need a consistent funding source so that whoever takes it over after me can continue and know that they don't have to be responsible financially for all the out-of-pocket costs. There weren't any personnel costs or anything like that because nobody gets paid. All of us are volunteers. But we had regular costs. We had filing fees with the state of Florida. We had the cost of the YouTube. We had the cost of the website. Those kind of costs we had to cover. So Phil said, well, okay, we'll start a Patreon account. So we did. That's the first time that we tried to raise any money, and we had a couple of people donate $5 here, $10 there, and so forth. And Phil then called me up and he said, what are we going to do with the extra money, assuming that we cover these out-of-pocket costs and we're not paying ourselves anything? So what are we going to do with the extra money? Well, I had been so impressed with Walter's company offering the first scholarships to model railroaders that I know of any company has ever offered in our hub. And I had written about them. I had called their director of marketing, the day after I first heard about it, and offered to support them and to promote them best we could. I used to talk about them on our shows all the time. And I thought, well, if Walters can do it, of course, they have a funding source, so they're not asking for any donations. But why can't the model railroad hobby have its own model railroad scholarship program for the youth that are coming along, that are going to be the future of our hobby once us old guys are not around anymore? And that seemed to be logical to me and logical to Phil. So that was the start of the idea. We were going to do a scholarship if we got more than the money to cover for the money we needed to pay the out-of-pocket cost for new tracks to just exist on the YouTube. Well, we asked for donations, and we started getting donations. And we covered, probably in the first month or so, sufficient donations from Patreon to cover the out-of-pocket costs for YouTube, and we started getting money for the scholarship. And so then people started saying, well, that's all well and good, but how much are you going to offer in a scholarship? And we didn't know how much money we could raise, and we didn't want to overpromise and tell kids we were going to do more than we thought we could. That's how we settled on the $1,000 for the first year. How'd we settle on the amounts that we're going to do this year? Again, it was we thought we could do it. We thought we were being realistic. We were so pleased with the responses that we were getting from the average modeler that we set us goal, and we achieved it. And then came along a fantastic organization that's part of the NMRA, that is the Pacific Coast region of the NMRA, whose president is with us tonight, Frank Makovich, MMR. Frank, welcome, and thank you so much for wanting to be a part of our scholarship program.
I saw you unmuted me and I almost hit mute.
Don't worry about it. It happens to me all the time.
So yeah, our Phil came to us with a proposal, Phil at home, and I think it took us 2 meetings to get approval because there were a lot of questions, but the board voted to write a check for $2,000, and I guess we're the first NMRA group to do that.
Not only the first NMR, Frank, you are the first group that has done this. And I can't thank you, your board, and your members enough for having the faith and wanting to support the scholarship for the young kids. I truly believe, Frank, that this is one way that we can help attract young people and keep young people interested in modeling and model railroading. And I can't thank you enough for believing that with us.
Well, you probably don't know it, but the average age in the NMRA is over 70 now.
Right.
Average age. And I'm a little over that average. And if we don't attract new modelers, we won't have a hobby. But it's not just model railroading. It's a lot of the hobbies that we all grew up with. Doll collecting for the women.
Yep.
And some hobbies have changed a lot. In model railroading, what I've seen a big change is towards operations, and the young people are more interested in operations. And I'm a model builder. I'm sort of old school. If the wheels move, that's enough operations for me.
Right. That's why I still run DC. I'm not an operator either.
Yeah, I'm going to be totally dead rail at some point because I hate track and I can't crawl underneath anymore. Which I'm sure I'm not the only one on this call that's in that position. So we're happy to support your organization and the scholarship, and look forward to seeing the applicants that you come up with.
Well, we hope that you'll help us get the applicants. I mean, you have You have an involvement certainly in the California State Museum and the NMRA's display there. We'd hope that maybe the museum would allow us maybe to put one of our banners there so people going to the exhibit could see that the scholarship is available. We think the scholarship is really could be a key to attracting and keeping young model railroaders interested because it would be a way to help fund their education. And I may be wrong about that, but I really think that this could be a way to help get some younger blood into the hobby.
Yeah, I hope we can get younger blood. Phil and I and members have been doing a lot towards recruitment. And at the last GTE show, I recruited a high school kid. He doesn't live in our division. He lives in a Redwood division, which is north of here. But he's one we could talk to.
Well, I didn't know until Phil told me today. Your region is the first region that was established by the NMRA.
Yes.
And it's interesting to me that was the case because you're the first region that has stepped up to helping develop our scholarship program. And we would hope that now your region has seen the value in working with us and helping us develop this scholarship effort. We would hope that other regions and divisions might also want to participate. And anything that you all might be able to do to encourage that would certainly be appreciated because we think that there's a lot of potential to attract young people to the NMRA. But I think with as you say, not just our hobby, but with a lot of organizations, even within our hobby, they all seem to be struggling with the question, how do we attract young people to the hobby? And I think one way that we might all be able to get together and work together toward that goal is by offering them scholarships and talking to them about their education, how important it is, and the role that model railroading could maybe play in the future in helping them get their education.
Yeah. You might want to talk to and have a display at the National in Long Beach. Pat, right. Who's that region. That region was part of the PCR till maybe 20 years ago, and they split off. Sort of hard to do conventions in Northern and Southern California. You'd alternate.
Right.
Sort of a long distance. So even when we have some in our region, if we go to Bakersfield, from some of the people, it's like an 8-hour drive. So that's tough.
Yeah, I agree with you. And we participated. Phil did a clinic for us at the last convention in Texas. We had our banner and so forth out there. And we asked the board of the NMRA at that convention if they could see their way clear to maybe encourage our scholarship. But Gordon said the board had too many other things on their agenda and just couldn't work us in for that. So we're hopeful that maybe the NMRA's meeting in Amherst earlier next year, maybe they'll have the time to consider our scholarship program for the NMRA and encourage other members of the NMRA to participate. That's, we're not asking National for money. We're just asking them to support the scholarship and encourage their members' participation. That's what we're really interested in. But Frank, I can't thank you enough again for your region to take the leadership in this. I mean, I can't tell you what it means for the kids and what it meant for us. It's really a shot in the arm.
Well, glad to help.
Thank you, Frank.
You're welcome.
Frank, let me ask you this. We're both MMRs. I have never met an MMR in my life that didn't either have a funny story, a sad story, or some ridiculous story to tell about their journey to get an MMR. So I'll share mine if you'll share yours.
Sure. I can start. Well, I started the journey a lot of years ago and then sort of got more involved with it, music and kids. And then at an O-Scale West convention, which is held in Santa Clara, which is about 30 miles from my house. I had an open house, and Bob Brown of the Gazette and Charlie Getz came over, and I already had, I think, 3 or 4 of the achievement awards. And Bob talked to me, he said, you know, you've met all the requirements just by the layout you built. And he says, you should go for it. He really encouraged me. And I pretty much met all of them except I do logging, and, you know, there's a requirement on the track that you have can turn the engines around. Well, on the logging railroads, they rarely turned them around. So he goes, well, just buy a Atlas turntable, HO turntable, and do a little display, and doesn't have to be on your layout. So I did that, and that turntable has been loaned to half a dozen other people. I don't know who has it now, because, you know, another friend went for model railroader was doing the belt line. They didn't have a turntable, you know, and so that's sort of my funny story on it.
Well, my story, some of it was funny. It wasn't funny to me at the time, I'll tell you that. But I had been a Lionel operator and collector and lived in Virginia, and my basement was full. I had around the walls, a total basement, except for small areas that my wife used. But the rest of the basement was just full of Lionel trains. I didn't have any accessories. I had some, but not many. But Lionel trains, they were all over. And a friend of mine called me up and said, listen, there's this train show over here. Why don't we go? I said, okay. And outside the front, as you entered, there was this table with all of these bulletins. I didn't even know what a bulletin was, but it had NMRA on top of it and bulletin. And there was a sign that said, if you're not an NMRA member, take one free. And I thought, well, hey, that's not a bad deal. So I took one of each that was there and ended up with 7, 8 different bulletins. And so I put them in my sack and went about the show and bought whatever I was going to buy and went home. And I started reading these bulletins. And in one of them, I read that they had a master model railroad. And I figured, well, geez, I've been a Lionel railroader all my life. You know, how hard can it be to be a master model railroader? I probably qualify already. I'll just call this guy up and he can come over and approve me, and I'll just put that plaque on my wall. So 3 guys come to my house, and I had been building models for some time, and I had found an article, I think it was in Craftsman at that point, about building a flat car. So I built from scratch 3 flat cars, put Lionel trucks and couplers on them, and ran them on my trains. I thought, you know, that's great. I'm a car builder. So they came over to my house and they started looking around and so forth, and started giggling and laughing, and they were having a ball. They liked to see the trains run. So we were talking for a while, and I said, well, listen, I need to get these cars judged at least while you guys are here. I said, what do you think of my 3 flat cars? They're scratch built. And so they looked at them, and one of the guys, he didn't laugh. It was kind of a giggle, but I heard it. And the other guy, who was the chairman of the group, said, well, we don't judge flat cars. The achievement program doesn't consider a flat car eligible because it's not difficult enough of a model to build. Now, if you want to have a merit award on a car, you need to build a tank car, or, you know, a hopper car, maybe a cattle car. You need to build something, you know, a passenger car. You need to build something that has some difficulty, but a flat car just doesn't qualify. And I said, okay. So one of the guys was looking at my layout, and he said, well, you know, we might give him some credit for the layout. It looks like he's got ballast here. And I looked at him dead in the eye and I said, if you're seeing ballast, I call it dust because I haven't done anything but on that track except run my trains. So if you think it's ballast, I'm all for you. And so they left. And that was my first experience with the achievement program. And it almost turned me off to a point where I said, I'll just give up. I can never do it, you know. But I took the other attack and said, you know, I'm going to achieve this. I am going to get an MMR. And I finally did it a little later. But that was my first involvement with the achievement program. I never will forget that. And that's my story. Like I say, it's funny to some people. It wasn't funny to me at the time. But now it's kind of a funny story.
Well, it's interesting you say flat car. I got a flat car I got 91 points on because I did all the brake rigging. Everything was on it. It was more detailed than most people do with other cars. Now, that being said, I couldn't run it. It was too fragile. It couldn't make the curves on my layout, which are 36 inches for ON3, which is a little sharp.
Right.
Because it was just too much under the body. But,
what's funny is your number is 600 and something, right?
no, I'm 514.
514. I'm 202. So between 202 and 514, there is a world of difference now in the achievement program, I can assure you. Because now people are building flat cars or recommending building flat cars as the first car you build, because if you can build a flat car with the underbody detail and so forth, you can build any car. Because the rest of the cars are nothing more than a flat car with a house on it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, they need to update some of the like electrical
Yeah.
needs changed. It's back in 40 years ago, 50 years ago. Electrical track needs to be, there's 3 or 4 of them that need to be updated. And hopefully they do that before too long.
But at the same time, I laugh and joke about the achievement program. In my opinion, the achievement program is the finest educational program a model railroader can ever have. You will learn more being a part of the achievement program than you'll learn more from any other place in the model railroading community, in my opinion. I think it's a fantastic program. Frank, thanks again. Thank you, board. Thank you, members. We look forward to working with you guys very, very closely throughout this process. And we can't thank you enough for your help.
Thank you.
Bob, I shall turn it back to you, sir.
Well, as I said, just stay tuned because next week I'll be back and we will be laying out our plan for next year. So as I said, please continue to think about making a donation, but just as important, please talk to some of the younger folks out there, people you know who have kids. As Jim said, I know personally, I modeled as a young man, and as soon as I went to college, I gave it up, and it took me a while to get back into it. So I think one of the real benefits of this is to show these young people that this is something you can do while you're in college. This is something that will not just give you a emotional and educational benefit, but it'll help you in your life. It'll help you mature as a person. So please keep that in mind, and we'll see you next week again. Thank you, Jim.
Yes, sir.